Boomers really want you to get a job. They'll constantly try to pressure, shame, gaslight, and manipulate you into working a BS job. But at the same time, they're now publicly admitting that they're refusing to hire Gen Z specifically. A lot of these articles have come out recently, and it's just completely exposing the absolute height of boomer hypocrisy. How the hell are you supposed to get a job? While at the same time, employers are publicly admitting they're refusing to hire you specifically. This is actually impossible in a literal sense. Young people are fed up with this modern economy and job market because the expectations set upon us are totally insane and unrealistic. For example, requiring a bachelor's degree for a $12 an hour job. This isn't satire, by the way. This is a real, actual job posting on LinkedIn. Talk about being an entitled, unreasonable snowflake. But just when you thought these entitled boomers and employers couldn't get any worse, they somehow managed to break their own records for shittiness and hypocrisy. You see, while demanding a bachelor's degree for a $10 an hour entry-level job is totally ridiculous, it's at least possible in a literal sense. But when you hardcore shame an entire younger generation, calling them lazy for not wanting to work, then you openly and publicly admit that you're specifically refusing to hire them. You've gone beyond your typical insane, delusional expectations. You're now literally asking them to do the impossible. I don't mean impossible in the sense of how we typically use that word in our day-to-day lives. Like, damn, it feels impossible to get out of bed today. Or damn, it's impossible to beat this damn boss in Elden Ring. I'm talking impossible in a literal sense, like damn. It's impossible to travel faster than the speed of light. That's literally what your boomer parents are expecting you to do these days. In the same way it's physically impossible to travel faster than the speed of light, it's physically impossible to get a job when everyone is specifically targeting you and refusing to hire you. These two things are literally diametrically opposed to each other. And then they turn around and wonder why no one wants to work. Well, geez, maybe it's the fact that you specifically admitted you're refusing to hire them, on top of the fact that you're paying them crap wages and treating them like dirt in the workplace as well. Another prime example of boomer hypocrisy is when they kick you out and expect you to live on your own, paying these absurd rent prices of nearly $2,000 a month. But at the same time, they'll tell you that you're entitled if you don't want to work a BS minimum wage job.
Oh, when I just started, I only made $7 an hour, too. Your skills don't deserve a living wage yet. What are you too good to work for $10 an hour?
Well, excuse me, but you're the one who asked me to move out and afford my own apartment. This, by definition, means that my job needs to pay me enough to afford my own apartment. I mean, let's just do some basic math here. If you work full-time 40 hours per week for $10 an hour, you'll only make about $1,600 per month. This means that even if you didn't spend a single dollar from your paycheck, you still would not be able to pay for rent alone. Let's say one day you were randomly given all of Superman's abilities. Let's say you were able to fly to work so you wouldn't have to pay for gas. Let's say you absorbed energy from the sun so you never had to pay for food. I'm basically giving you literal comic book superpowers here. And guess what? You still wouldn't be able to afford to pay for rent with today's dog shit wages. You wouldn't even be able to use your superhuman strength to lift a shitload of extra boxes for more money because, guess what? The fact that you're being paid hourly wages based on your time and not your productivity means that whether you lift 1 or 1 million boxes per hour, you're still going to be making the same dogshit $10 an hour. It's quite telling how insanely bad things are today when a literal superhero with comic book superpowers still wouldn't be able to afford rent today. He might be able to move entire planets and leap tall buildings with a single bound. But good luck trying to pay for rent in this economy. One of the things boomers love to tell us to shame us into working is the whole lie that we have it better than anyone in human history, and thus, we should be grateful. Now, I've already debunked this myth in many of my videos. Medieval peasants, for example, only had to work half as much as Gen Z has to work today. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you've heard me make this point many times. But if we want to talk about human history, there's an even better angle for us to completely expose their hypocrisy. You see, a lot of boomers are totally reliant on retirement and Social Security right now. And this isn't really something that existed throughout human history. But before we continue on, Let's expose a few important facts about Social Security itself.
Social Security is run like a Ponzi scheme. And every time I say that, I get told, you're going to make old people mad. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm trying to just explain what's actually going on. The money you put into Social Security today doesn't go in an account for you when you retire. The money you put into Social Security today goes to somebody else that is collecting on Social Security. If you did that in the private sector, you would be arrested for setting up a Ponzi scheme. But when the federal government does it, it's okay because they have the legal right to do crap like this. Okay, well, how do you pay for all of these entitlement programs? How do you pay for all this money that you're just sending out? How do you pay for the wars that we're fighting everywhere? Like, how do you pay for it? 3 ways. You can tax it, but that pisses people off. You can borrow it, but the problem is that you get to a point where people don't want to buy treasuries anymore because the interest that they're collecting off of the treasury bonds that they bought is not keeping up with inflation. So why would I invest my money in a government bond that is actually losing me money? The third way is print. That's how you collapse a currency.
Let's be very clear about something. Social Security is a form of welfare entitlement. We just don't think of it that way because it benefits the boomers. If any other age group collects welfare, they get hardcore shamed for it, but that's beside the point. Culturally, we just evolved to a point where we accept this form of welfare because we don't like the idea of old, crippled people being forced to work. The thing is, I actually agree with this. I don't think anyone should be forced to work, which is why I support a universal basic income for everyone, including old people. But since boomers want to use the whole, you have it better than anyone in human history argument, let's make them live by their own logic and expectations. Social Security and retirement did not exist for most of human history. The way it used to work was that you either saved up enough for the day you wouldn't be able to work anymore, or you'd be out of luck. Either that, or you'd have to rely on your children to take care of you and hope that you weren't such an unbearable asshole towards them that they would just outright refuse to. Now, with how awful boomers have been towards us, somehow I doubt option 2 would be available to a lot of them. Some would argue that they are entitled to Social Security because they paid into it, but the problem is they haven't paid nearly as much into it as they're taking out of it. This is why the Social Security Fund is projected to run out in less than a decade now, long before US Gen Z and millennials become eligible for Social Security ourselves, by the way. We're paying for the boomers' Social Security right now with our taxes, and we're not even going to see Social Security ourselves because of them. So, if we should just blindly accept these dog shit wages and working conditions because it's better than at any point in human history, I have a serious question for all these boomers who tell us this. Why don't you stop collecting Social Security and retirement and start working for these dog shit wages yourself? Social Security and retirement did not exist for most of human history, that's a fact. So, by your own logic, you should just pull yourself up by the bootstraps and be grateful because you have it better than anyone in human history. Boomers, and not Zoomers, are truly the most lazy and entitled generation ever. And we expose their laziness even more in this video right here.